Off top. So, guys, you would say that 21 personnel is like base personnel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 2 backs, 1 tight.
Yeah. Classic. Every high school team runs that type of thing. First thing you choose in Madden.
What would you say if I told you there are 2 teams that haven't played 1 snap of 21 personnel all season long? Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. I'm Domonique Foxworth. We are joined, as we always are on the Friday episode, by the great Mina Kimes, my buddy Charlie. How you doing, Charlie? You good?
Good.
All right. Charlie rushed in here. Almost was late. Made it just in time.
I wasn't, though.
Are we guessing the teams? My mind's been
We have
racing.
to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was buying you time to continue the race, but you're already ready. That's why I was doing this. I was playing a little grab with my man Charlie, so you got some time to think about it.
Genuinely, this is feels so niche that this is going to be just a purely blind guess for me.
Yeah.
I have one
Can I
blind
guess?
guess, so I'll let Mina go first. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
you
of
vote.
course.
You vote. You want to go first?
Yeah.
My 2 guesses off the top of my head are the Rams and the Bengals.
Okay. Charlie.
I was trying to think of a team that would run like majority pistol. And so I was going to guess the Falcons, but then I was sure that Algier and Bijan have been on the field at the same time. So that will be my one guess, even though I know they're probably on the other end of the spectrum just because they have 2 good backs.
Okay. You just making one guess. You don't want any.
I don't have a second guess.
All right. 0-21. The answer is the Bears
The Bears.
and the Rams.
Rams. The Bengals have run it. Really? How many of the Bengals? How many snaps have the Bengals run it?
All right. The Colts have one
The Colts
snap
was the other one I was going to guess.
of
That was my
21
third guess.
personnel.
Honestly, if Mina hadn't guessed the Rams, I totally would have just guessed the Rams and the Bears.
My bad. There are 4 teams. Bengals
Oh, wait,
and the
what?
Cardinals.
Oh, so both of Mina's guesses were right?
Wait,
Way to go, Mina.
there are 4
There are
teams.
4 teams that haven't run any 21 all season long.
Okay, so I was right.
Yeah. I forgot. I was looking at my sheet that I had another filter on, and it cut out those other 2 teams. And then I remembered, I think I got too many filters on. I took it off.
This is like Survivor Pool all over again. Should we get into why you use that off top to begin?
Please, by all means.
So Greg Olson pointed out on the broadcast and on Twitter that mismatches and getting teams out of their base personnel has been a huge part of Mina's Seahawks success, where the Seahawks have had heavy offensive personnel that has forced teams to not use their sub packages, their nickel packages, and that's actually played into the Seahawks' hands of getting the ball to JSN, attacking more downfield. And the Rams didn't do that last week. That has since been picked up by Ted Wynn of The Athletic, who wrote a really cool piece about the way, getting smalls on bigs and bigs on smalls has been one of the stories of the season, and how there are certain outlier players, whether it's a Kyle Hamilton or a healthy Fred Warner, guys who can sort of, negate those differences. I thought it was super interesting, and I think it's a good pathway to talk about one of the best games of this weekend, which is the Bucs and the Rams. We'll get into some of the other best games as well, but it's a good pathway to get into this because the Rams are also a team that's been highlighted for playing a ton of 13 personnel, which might potentially change moving forward with Tyler Higbee going to IR. But what do you guys think about this? Do you feel that this is one of the stories of the season? Where do you want to take this, Domonique?
Yeah, no, I think offensively, this is certainly one of the stories of the season. I would say defensively, the story of the season is like man coverage. But this personnel situation, to me, is really interesting, especially with the Rams, because it was out of like necessity, where when Puka went down, I feel like they would run. And it was the unique thing about Puka was a receiver that would create even more of a mismatch than a tight end would. So they were kind of running the same sort of stuff, just as Puka was mostly the move guy on there. And so then after Puka went down, they went into a bunch of heavier personnel and created these matchups. And other teams have done, like the 49ers historically have always kind of been a mismatch dependent team, or like, I guess, versatility dependent team, where they put their people out there and they wait for you to react to them, and then they'll run because they have the type of players, from Kittle to Deebo Samuel to Christian McCaffrey. They have the type of players that are comfortable in every situation, and most teams don't have the type of personnel to match up. So if you put out a base, we're going to throw the ball because you have linebackers out there that are comfortable. If you put out a sub, a nickel or dime, we're going to run the ball because our guys are just as comfortable in those situations as they are in the others.
Yeah, I was just pulling the teams that have faced the most base defense over the course of the NFL season, and it's the Niners, the Bears, the Colts have a lot not for that reason. Well, they do put multiple tight ends on the field, actually. The Steelers, unsurprisingly, the Ravens, the Seahawks. But then when you go to, okay, who's the most efficient passing on it, you see the Rams enter the top 5, and then the Lions and the Seahawks and the Falcons are at the top. The Rams one was fascinating to me, Dominique, in this game, because on the first few drives, McVay was going heavy tight ends, and they popped off a couple big runs. Yep. But then the Seahawks started to stop it, and so he reverted to using 11 personnel. So there's like a fluidity there that I think is really interesting. I don't think they're going to stop it against the Bucs, although the Higbee thing is interesting, and that's an important factor here. But even if you were to go 12 personnel, the Rams have been mostly 13. I think, with Tampa, you want to have those linebackers. Tampa matches that with base. You and I were talking about it. Tampa matches 12 personnel with base defense, meaning the 3 linebackers on the field 86% of the time. And their linebackers are by far their weakest in coverage. I think for LA, though, and there's an interesting kind of quirk to all of this, they have to decide, are they comfortable running that without Higbee? Right. Because to do this, to do everything we're describing, put big bodies on the field, get defenses to play base, and then punish them through the air, or if they go light, punish them on the ground, one of your tight ends has to be able to block. I don't think they're comfortable with their rookie tight end, Terrence Ferguson, as a blocker, so you might not see it because of that.
I think, honestly, this frame works for almost all of our games because the Steelers are actually one of the few teams that do a lot of like 13 and heavy personnel packages, but aren't actually all that good at it. Mm-hmm. Like efficiency passing wise is the concept is you get an advantage in passing because I guess to take a bigger picture view is it's not only that you get a physical body advantage if you, depending on what the opponent matches with, you also, if you force them into base, you get an advantage as far as like simplicity of coverage.
Yeah.
Because generally the defenses are developed so that you can get into a passing situation, which then you'll go to some sort of sub package, and then you can do all the freaky stuff. You can do all the sims, you can do all the disguises, you can do all the pressures. You have a ton of DBs that are comfortable doing all of these different things. If for whatever reason you keep them in base, there's only so many different disguises you can do with coverage. And then on top of it, the players are uncomfortable in those situations. And I guess it would work the other way. If you force a team in the sub, there's not a whole bunch of fronts. Like they're not going to be accustomed to running a tight front, which I think the Seahawks did a few more versions of that against the 13 personnel to slow down the run. Because ultimately, I think we've had this conversation before. Giving up a little bit on the run is less concerning than opening up big chunks through the pass.
I should probably talk about it from the other side of the ball, right? Because the Seahawks are, I mentioned them. They're the team that's been doing this before the Rams pivot. The Seahawks have been a very tight end, fullback as well centric team, and then they're just shredding teams because they're able to pass on that. They average when the Seahawks face base defense, which they face a lot because of the big bodies they put on the field, they average 11.5 yards per play through the air, which is obviously insane and the best in the NFL. The Rams defense did what Domonique said, which is they said, cool, we're not putting linebackers on the field, run the ball, and the Seahawks couldn't. And this is a major issue with the Seahawks, and this is something that Greg's been hammering for a few weeks now. When defenses actually go light, can you run on them? I will say, I think the Rams are uniquely good at stopping the run out of those lighter looks, similar to Seattle. So there are other teams where if they try to go light against Seattle, I think will be better running football than they were in this last game.
Watching Charlie while you talk was hilarious because he started doing I know you speak meme. He started doing the what's the word? He's pointing to the screen.
Oh, the Leo.
He started doing the Leo pointing to the screen because he wanted to say what you were going to say but you got to it more quickly.
Both of the points.
Both of the points you were going to make. What were the points you were going to make?
The one I wanted to ask, being like, is this a model against Seattle moving forward? Which is like, if they can't run the ball, why don't more teams just dare them to do that? Not react to their personnel. And I know some of the things that Ted Wynn brought up in the article is that like Washington has been one of those teams that tries to stay in sub packages and not react to heavy personnel, but they can't because they just get gashed by the run, et cetera, et cetera. And but I do wonder, like, it's just like you have a player who's so special and explosive in JSN, and that's clearly the focal point of their offense. And they don't want to be running the ball to Walker and Charbonnet.
No, I was just going to say, the average nickel or dime defense allows 5 yards per carry, right? Mm-hmm. So which is bad.
Yeah,
you're allowing 5 yards per carry.
I mean,
yes,
and I think that probably, I guess, could you check the success rate? Because that probably factors in. If it's 3rd and 9, you give a 5, they don't really care. So like
that's a good point. Sorry,
yeah. I would say that the other thing I would bring up is we talk often about like getting a linebacker in space in the passing game because he's uncomfortable there. I'd also throw in there one of the things that the Rams do to be so that they are effective in the rushing attack with 12 or 13 personnel is shifts and motions, because shifts and motions are something that linebackers are accustomed to adjusting to. So if you are a safety or you're a nickel back and they put you in the box, so you guys would say, or all of us would say, let's play nickel against this, force them to run the ball because they aren't that great at it. We are not as comfortable with adjusting to shifts and motions and pulls, and you are more likely to get gashed in a situation like that. And so I saw that in the Rams game, where that first situation that they had in there, and that's the Seahawks, the Rams Seahawks game from last week. The Seahawks are a team. I got like 30,000 thoughts in my head. So the first thing I'll say is I find it hilarious always, every year since I've been watching football closely, that teams often construct themselves because you spend so much time going up against your opponent or going up against your own team. You often construct yourself in a way that you are comfortable against your own team. Yeah. And sometimes if you're looking for a way to beat an offense, you look at their own defense. And thinking about that, I see the Seahawks actually have built a defense that is flexible enough to not change.
They drafted the world's biggest nickel. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but Nicky Manwari.
No, you're not. Could you think of a bigger nickel?
Yeah, we should call it biggest nickel, right? Instead of big nickel when he's out there. Right. The nerdiest thing I've ever said. So, yeah, but you know,
definitely not the nerdiest.
The Ram. I mean, so I think what the point I want to make is when we talk about, you know, this chess match, and then the question that arises naturally is, can you stop the run with light bodies on the field? The point I want to make is I think the Seahawks and the Rams are uniquely good at it, right? Like I'm looking at nickel defense against the run. Dominique, you talked about. So the success rate is worse than base defense against the run. It's not just yards per carry. But like the Seahawks and the Rams are both top 5 in like every metric defending the run. And then you look at the bottom and you start to see like the Bills, who are horrendous, the Cowboys, obviously, the Bears. Like that's where you start to get concerned. If you're, I mean, the Bears are playing the Steelers this weekend. Steelers are going to put a lot of big bodies on the field. The Bears cannot go light against them. Yeah. They'll just run all over them, right? So then it becomes, okay, but are you nervous then about the Steelers play actioning you, etc.? So I think there's no catch-all because just some defenses are significantly better at it than others.
Can I take a step back, and I want to explain a little bit more what I was talking about with the shifts and motions, because I assume that, like, Mina, you understand what I'm saying, but I think it might be a little bit too, like, in the weeds for people to appreciate. So, like, if you are assuming that everyone has a gap, your gap is the one that's in front of you, you're responsible for a run that goes through that lane. If there's a shift in alignment, the gaps move. Or if there's a motion, your gaps change. And I think linebackers also are accustomed to adjusting to those movements and changes and accustomed to playing multiple gaps at the same time. So like, while it sounds easy to say, we'll just give up 3 or 4 yards per carry, I think that's fine if you average it, as are most things, if you average it over the course of an entire season, okay, whatever, we'll live with that. But what probably happens in practice is you get a 1-yard play, a 2-yard play, then you give them a 30-yard play. And if that one comes at the wrong time, and it's more likely to happen if you have guys, not necessarily that are small, but that too, but guys who are not accustomed to, like, if someone pulls, that means that I have to follow that pull and insert wherever he inserts. Or if there's a fullback, it changes my gap. So these things, I think, seem simple or look simple, but actually are a lot more complicated in practice. We talked about how the Steelers are actually, I think we're talking about all the games at the same time.
We kind of are, but we can run through some of the specific ones. But I thought this was such an interesting concept.
I don't have a problem with talking about all the games.
It's a big deal in a lot of these games. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Like, it is like I kind of felt like a little bit of a broken record when I was doing matchups, because I was like, and another one, can they match their heavier personnel and can they stop the run? It is like I do think it's fair to say it's like one of the defining questions of the NFL season.
Well, just one thing before we get to the Steelers, then, since we started with the Rams on this, how much do you think will be a repeat against this Bucs team? Where you said when you watched the tape of this, we were talking about this earlier, they like midway through the game, they wanted to run away from Leonard Williams.
Oh yeah, not midway.
Sorry, the entire time. And I mean, I don't know if that'll be the same against Vita Vea. Like I see that game, and you think that they're probably going to put it on the Bucs, but like how much of this stuff carries over to that game?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Mina already touched on the Higbee injury. I think that matters. They can always go back to doing this stuff with Puka as the move guy. I think they have the Bucs defense outmatched. I'm less concerned about them finding a way to move the ball and score there, or less concerned with how they do it. I think they're going to be able to do it. The question is, for me, are the Bucs going to be able to score and move the ball against this defensive front? With the corners playing a lot better of the Rams. Like, that's the thing. I'm not exactly sure how they do it. I know they're supposed to get Bucky Irvin back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think the Bucs are a much better running team than Seattle. All the gap runs that they do and their offensive line is getting healthy. So if the Rams come out and with those lighter guys, like the Bucs, watching them against the Bills, obviously they lost, but they were just demolishing them at the second and third level. They're skill players, and obviously the Wirfs had the big block. Now the Rams are obviously significantly better run defense than Buffalo, but if they come out in dime as much as they've been, I think Tampa should try to run the ball on them.
Mina, you should have heard Domonique on the phone today, recreating his reaction to that Tristan Wirfs block.
Jordan Poyer, go be a family man.
He was just making noises, going, oh,
he pulled
athletic.
He pulled from the left side and ran 50 yards downfield on the right side and beat the running back to the end zone. It's ridiculous. Anytime I hear Tristan Wirfs' name, I think about how he did a vertical leap out of a pool.
He stopped doing it because it scrapes his shins too much.
It's one of the flashiest offensive line plays of the entire season, for sure.
Oh, yeah. That play and that pre-draft video also was like, immediately, I don't care what position he plays, sign him up. Are they going to move Big Washington to tackle? They need to.
That was, I mean, I'm sure everyone saw the clip of him on Amon Ross St. Brown's podcast where he weighs 311. I genuinely, I know you want to talk about the Steelers stuff. Why don't they make him a focal point of the offense and throw him the ball? He seems impossible to tackle.
They throw him a lot.
I know he gets like a weird amount of
targets last week, for who he is. He gets more targets than Pat Freiermuth now, which is like kind of insane.
That makes sense though. He's 6'7", 311, and it's like I don't know.
Stiff arming people to the ground. Put that man in tackle. Learn to kick slide. Protect Aaron Rodgers. He probably would be an incredible tackle. Those feet.
Play him on, I don't know. He's the new Travis Hunter. Play him at defensive end and tackle.
I don't know if he has the explosion for defensive end.
And he looks pretty fast to the ball. All right, where do you want to go to next on this, Domonique?
What are we on now? The Steelers.
You brought the Steelers, which
I think we can come back to that later. Like, honestly, sorry for bouncing around and making this sloppy. I hope everybody's enjoying it as much as I am, but I think I'd rather do Eagles-Cowboys.
Okay, yeah, go for it. You were excited about this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we're starting getting into the part of the season where one-sided playoff games start to happen, where both the Chiefs and the Cowboys, I believe, are in playoff mode right now. I'm excited about what we're going to see out of this Cowboys team. I think I got a little too excited about how good their defense looked against the Raiders, in part because I think their defense looked great against the Raiders, but the Raiders were unable to challenge them in any way because their O-line, D-line matchup was so overwhelming that it was like, at the end of the night, I was like, oh, man, did the Cowboys have a defense? And then after you actually watch it, you're like, I don't actually know if anybody behind this front four is any good or gotten any better because the Raiders could not run the ball or block enough to find out.
I think what I would go to, because obviously I agree with you about the Raiders, is this. The two players added to the front, Quinnen Williams and DeMarvion Overshown, we already know are good players. So I can't, I can be like, oh, it's the Raiders suck. But like we've seen those players play at a high level before, obviously. And then the other, I think the bigger question still remains the secondary. But again, if they can stuff the run and actually, do that, then it might not matter. Here's the thing. Even if the Cowboys defense goes from being like 29-30 to 22-23, let's just throw that out there. the Eagles offense is like 22-23 at best.
Yeah.
So it's like 22-23 at best. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, now here comes, like, right? Like,
right.
This Eagles offense has been dismal. So it's truly like a weakness on weakness potentially on that side, or mid on mid, and then the other side is elite on elite, I think, or like very good on very good. So, yeah, I think this is a really tough one for me because I think both sides are actually pretty well matched up.
So can I ask you that on this mid on mid? So what offense, given the defenses they're facing, are you more confident in? Which of these two?
It's a great question.
A funny question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Cowboys offense, obviously, I'm more confident in, but that Eagles defense is so good. I think last time they played was week 1, and the Eagles didn't have Carter. They also were just kind of working Pickens into the situation. So I think I would count this as the addition of Pickens and the addition of Carter, especially the way Pickens played last week. I was buying time to think of an answer, and I still don't really feel completely confident.
So Eagles fans, notoriously very pleasant and not quick to anger, were upset with me because on, I think maybe it was my pod or Shield's pod, I had them 3 on a defense. So I went on Shield Kapadia's The Ringer NFL show, and he asked for the top 3 defenses, which is actually an insane question because there's an obvious top 4, and any order you put them in, somebody's going to be very mad. So, but I had the Eagles at 3, which I thought was like pretty high. And the one thing I said was they have a weakness, right? Like I don't think the Texans have, who I put them above them, I was like, I don't think they have like an obvious weakness. And Eagles fans said, well, Dory Jackson's been playing better and da-da-da-da. And
right.
I'm like, one, not convinced. I think he has benefited from the pass rush being dominant and a Jared Goff stinker. But hey, guys, we're about to find out because you're going against the team with the number 1 and the number 2 receiver who can actually exploit this. They tried. The first time these teams played, they lined up CD and Pickens mostly wide. The Cowboys aren't dumb. They're not trying to sacrifice someone to Cooper DeJean, right? Or sacrifice is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. So let's see.
Kind of is sacrifice.
Because like we're going to learn in this game if Jackson is still a glaring weakness. Now, the pass rush will alleviate that a lot, I do think, because it's so good right now. And you could get them in 3rd and longs if you're able to stop the run the way you've been. But to me, it's just the obvious, this is the one thing. This is the hole in the Death Star. But maybe it's not anymore. We'll find out. I think we're going to learn a lot in this game is my point.
I mean, it's a tough thing. So this is why we skip over ability to stop the run, but it always comes up at some point because if your weakness is stopping the run, then there is no real protection for that. Yeah. Whereas if your weakness is your 3rd corner or your 2nd corner, depending on how you look at it, then that front can protect it. The blitz can protect it. There are coverage things you can do to protect it. There's matchups you can do to protect it. So if you're going to choose somewhere for you to be particularly weak, that's a place that you can kind of compensate for it and hope to get lucky. But it's still, those compensations will weaken other portions of your defense, and maybe you do pick it up.
And Dak also can throw the ball real quick, right? Like that's the other thing. So if there's any quarterback, I'm like, maybe he can mitigate this rush. It could be him. But again, the rush is awesome right now. I mean, holy smokes. They look incredible. So it's going to be a great matchup.
It is going to be a great matchup. And what we saw from Dak was, I mean, I guess against the Raiders, it's always, Dak's been really good and doing really well this season. But I failed to see a bunch of those seam throws that I feel like have been like defining of Dak's game, which is interesting because he still put up big numbers. But I think against this particular team, I guess it depends on how they're going to approach it because it seems like the Eagles want to be a man coverage team more and more week after week unless you make them go back to like those zones. And those zones is where Dak will eat you alive. So it's an interesting proposition because it feels like there's no answer other than you must win at the line of scrimmage because I don't think that anybody's going to be able to cover, like even great corners. It's going to be tough with a great quarterback to be able to cover both CD and Pickens in man coverage.
We need to talk about the Pickens thing a tiny bit too.
Okay. Go for it.
No, just like we thought that like, oh, he's crazy George Pickens. Like, yeah, Jerry traded a 3rd and a 5th for him. It is an unbelievable trade to get that guy who's like,
who is
presumably the
first of all, sorry, I dispute this.
Who's the royal we? Your ilk, Mina.
I've always been a George Pickens enthusiast, so I object.
We can check the receipts on all of this stuff. You're totally right.
She's
I'm
honest.
sure. I meant like the general football watching public, as the royal we of people who had questions about like Pickens' attitude and on-field stuff. And since he's gotten there,
and it was also that the Steelers were trading him to Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
So you assume that one team that is right more often than another. But anyway,
my objection to the Pickens trade, which at the time I loved, was afterwards when they traded Parsons. I was like, well, what are you doing? You're trying to compete this year. You traded for a receiver. I think he's awesome. I think this passing attack is going to be awesome. And then
Yeah, but why get weaker?
There's just no logic to, and then it's like, oh, the trade deadline, we want to be good. It's like, what are you trying to do here?
Right.
What's going on?
I mean, that's like the Quinn and Williams trade and all that stuff. But yeah.
So just sorry to interrupt you, Charlie, but going back to the first time these teams played, and keep in mind, this is week 1. So we have week 1, Adoree Jackson, week 1, George Pickens, new teams, etc. But mostly, he was lined up against Quinyon in that game, and they had CeeDee Lamb was lined up against a mixture of he had lined up out wide though 63% of the time, and Pickens was almost entirely out wide. So Cowboys, they're gonna try to attack Jackson. I think in this one, they're gonna probably have CD mostly lined up out wide.
And where I started before I passed it over to Charlie was about the man coverage situation. They're going to want to be in man coverage, but I think they're going to be quick to get out of it and go to some sort of zone, be it 3 or 4 or something like that, which is when I think Dak becomes really dangerous. And I don't know. I have a hard time. I guess the question is, if they go, for me at least, if they go man coverage, I think the Cowboys can leave in more people to protect, and that would be dangerous. If they go with a zone and then the Cowboys are caught trying to help out, and the Cowboys actually have a pretty good offensive line. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just that this rush is so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this rush has now gone up against the Lions, who aren't what they were. But
right. But they're good.
Still.
Yeah.
The rush is so good.
The Cowboys are not the same. Like we talked about, most of these games have this jumbo personnel or this heavy personnel kind of mismatch situation. The Eagles are built to be able to handle that, but the Cowboys aren't a team that looks to exploit that.
Right.
Cowboys are kind of like put Dak out there, put our receivers, 2 receivers out there.
They've been mixing that guy Lipke. The fullback. They use him. Yeah. They'll use him.
That's fair.
I think, though, that was a Raiders thing where they were like, your linebackers can't cover. We're going to play action, you guys. And the Eagles have like the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. What was I going to say? I mean, that's the strength on strength matchup. But this Eagles offense, first of all, there's no Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
For a while.
Do we have any hopes that this Eagles offense turns this around this week?
I mean, we had hopes when we thought the Cowboys defense was putrid. Now that it seems like they're at least respectable, if nothing else, because I tend not to say like, well, you did it against a bad team. If you destroy a NFL team, I got some respect for you. The problem is the way that they did it makes me a little concerned, is that they're not going to have that same advantage. As injured as the Eagles offensive line is, they're not going to get confused by like simple stunts. Like I assume they have one of the better coached offensive lines in football. Like I think they're going to be able to handle it. The question is, are they going to get enough wins at important times? And they still, they've yet to run the ball in a dominant way yet. So I don't expect that that's going to pop up. What would happen is attack the secondary and create explosive plays. But then we get to, is Jalen Hurts able to do that?
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of first time they played, AJ was invisible because the Cowboys just
threw to him once. I think he had one target for one catch.
We were like, it's just one game. I mean, people forget how close this game was, by the way.
Yeah. It was an awesome game the first time around.
And it was it's like full circle. We had a spit that game. We got a spit last week.
That's right. Well, that was a big part of why it was so close. The Eagles not having Jalen Carter. I think that's fair to point out.
A very different Eagles defensive line now, too, just in general. Okay, we should talk about the last really good game of the weekend. Colts-Chiefs. We have a game manager quarterback going up against a historic offense. And so, I need to ask you, this is a total hack sports radio question, but at this point, the Colts are at the top of the AFC. The Chiefs are actually, there's a chance they don't make the playoffs at 5-5. Which one of these teams has more to prove in this game?
That is sports radio.
I know it's so hacky, but it's all I can think of with this game. Yeah.
Can't believe the Chiefs are favored by as much as they are. Do you see that?
I mean, the fact that they're favored at all, it just speaks to how different the markets are for public teams.
They're
3.5.
3.5 now.
Yeah. And it's in Kansas City, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the line is good for gauging a lot of games, but when there's a team like the Chiefs, sometimes it's skewed because that's what that is. That's just like historic Chiefs respect, which I also have, which is why I think that the proving needs to be done by the Colts more than the Chiefs, which I know sounds crazy considering how good the Colts are. And like, we can boil it down to what it is. Like, we've still yet to have the situation where Daniel Jones is plays really well in a big game without it being Jonathan Taylor centric. So I think I have more questions about that. The Chiefs are I think we discussed this before, how the Chiefs are very similar to who they were last year as far as like the one-score games. It's just going in the other direction. If the problem with the Chiefs is that they don't have like a thing that they can rely on, but you look back at that film last week, people running wide open.
Yeah.
Not wide open, open enough. And Patrick Mahomes is not hitting them. And so if you are telling me that the problem with this team is Patrick Mahomes' inaccuracy, like, it's hard for me to completely give up on them. I understand that they don't have any margin of error going forward, but I still think if they get in the playoffs, they got a chance. So they don't have anything to prove to me. That's all I'm saying.
I was going back a little bit back and forth with Mitch Schwartz about the Mahomes misses downfield. And there were two things we talked about, one of which was and I don't know if Mitch is posting this there, but he asked me to look up like quarterbacks in Denver and how inaccurate, and they are like significantly more inaccurate throwing downfield at Mile High than every other stadium by like a very statistically significant margin, which of course, right?
That's a great stat.
Yeah, it was kind of stunning. They all statistically over the last 10 years turn into basically Brock Osweiler throwing downfield. Wow. Yeah, because I looked.
And I mean, just for people who wouldn't know, like, I think that you're suggesting that it's about the altitude.
Yeah.
And how the ball might carry a little more.
But anyways, the other thing we talked about though is like, why are they missing? And we kind of discussed the fact, like, it just feels like his timing with these guys. It's not an arm strength thing. He's overthrowing them half the time, but it just feels like for whatever reason, his timing downfield is just not there with the faster receivers. I think that's massive in this game because the Colts pass defense can be had.
I mean, it could be had. It may not be haddable anymore. I mean, isn't Ward's coming back? Good point.
Ward's back.
Ward's
Gardner.
coming back. They've only had 1 week of Sauce.
Sauce coming off the bye. Yeah.
My key for my pod in this one was I said it should be a big Travis Kelce game because even if they play man coverage, Kelce's not usually the answer to win against man coverage. But I actually think the tight ends are where this one, like, they can, and maybe Rashee Rice working underneath, but I could see Travis Kelce having an advantage against these Colts players.
Do you have a feeling or a prediction for this game?
I think I'm experiencing the same thing that I experienced in the Chiefs Super Bowl last year and also the Chiefs Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Can't do it.
Where it's like, if I hadn't seen Mahomes do the Mahomes thing so many times, I would be. And I also have a hard time pinning down something that's just so bad that I could be like, all right. Like, last year was easy because they were winning games while I was like, hey, they're not that good. This year, I'm like, what is the thing that is just so bad that is going to kill them? And I'm having a hard time because, honestly, if the Chiefs had a season like the Colts have had up until now, even with it being generated by the running attack, this would be a no contest question for me, but it's because it's the Chiefs.
Right.
Well, the Chiefs are bad at a couple of things. They can't run the ball. And they can't rush the passer it's not a horrible pass rush, but it's not good, right? Like, so when I think about the Colts offense, they should be able to move the ball on Kansas City. Play action has always been, not always, but it's a weakness of theirs. The run defense is not great. Like, the Colts are a better team than Kansas City. Yeah. They should win this game, but it's hard to... Mahomes 3 losses in a row. It just doesn't feel possible. But, like, if you take out that factor and you just look at it on paper, the Colts should win.
Is there any potential for positive regression where last year they were so lucky in those one-score games, and then this year they're 0-5 in them, where they might actually
they're not as bad as
they're
I think that's important.
I mean, I don't think anybody believes that this is going to be like I guess it could be a dog walking, a blowout, but I guess that's what it comes down to is like if the Chiefs are close at the end, are you going to have confidence that Jonathan Taylor can run them to a game-winning touchdown or Patrick Mahomes can pass his way? And I think that's the other thing is the Mahomes factor that we haven't discussed is they haven't been a great running team the last couple of years, but they were crazy effective on 3rd and longs last year, which they aren't again now. So like that puts them behind the 8 ball in a lot of different ways, and Mahomes hasn't been able to like do the Mahomes magic to pull them out of it.
If they play more man coverage, which I think they will with those corners back, and Mahomes' legs will be a big factor in this one. The willingness, I mean, because this is a desperation game for him, right? For this whole team. So I think you could see him using his legs a bit more, and that could be effective. I
mean, I think you kind of have to play the Chiefs in man coverage just because of like the Travis Kelce and Mahomes. Like, if there are zones, there will be holes, and Kelce will find those holes, and Mahomes will anticipate him finding those holes and hit him with those passes.
Yeah. All right, a couple quick hitters. We'll do this, and we'll get to our picks really quick. But first one, Zach Taylor has not ruled out Joe Burrow playing or not playing. He said he's not there yet, but he was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. Presumably he's trending towards playing. Your reaction to Joe Burrow coming back, what is presumably a month and a half early when the season seems like it's out of reach?
Yeah, I'm shocked by it. The further I get away from football, I think I probably think less like a football player. So I try to remember or think less like someone in a building. Mm-hmm. And I got to try to remember that it's just,
if you're healthy, play football.
Play.
Yeah.
Like, given a chance, you play. No, and so we want to treat him differently. And also it's complicated by like Zach Taylor feeling pressure after some disappointing years, like having a little day bowl situation where you're like, I have to demonstrate that I'm the right person for this job. But it's still surprising because it's not even like it's on target. It's ahead of schedule for someone who you expect.
Way ahead of schedule.
For someone you expect to be around for a while.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, if he wants to and he feels healthy, that's his decision. But I look at it the same way I look at Jaden Daniels in Washington. You know, your team's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to absorb extra risk. Also, let's get those superior draft picks, please. You know, so I as a neutral observer analyst would say don't play either of those guys, but also their motivations are different from mine. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't factor into it.
Yeah, I also would lean towards not playing them, but tends to be like if you aren't mathematically out of it, you get your guys out there and you play.
This one just feels so weird because of the reporting around it initially that was like he'd be lucky to come back in the postseason. Right. And then it was like he might be back in December. And then it was Thanksgiving and now it's the week before. It just the timeline of it feels sped up and like we obviously we don't know everything.
Because at first it was like turf toe. That's not a big deal. Yeah. Then it was surgical turf toe. He'll be out forever. And now it's like surprise, he's back.
Chase isn't playing in this game.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. This organization, the defense is somehow even worse than last year. They didn't trade Trey Hendrickson, which they should have. I just don't understand anything they do.
I mean, I know we've chatted. It feels like the defenses this year that are bad are historically bad.
There's such
crazy.
So yeah, Charlie, there was like when I did the thing with Shield, where I was like, there's a very clear top 4, and then there's I think a top 6. Then there's just a ton of and then some stinkers.
Yeah.
And the stinkers are stinkers this year. It does feel like a Barbelly type year where there's like some really great defenses and really bad defenses. Maybe more so than the past.
It's interesting. Next one, we're probably contractually obligated to ask this question. And it's Shedeur Sanders is starting this weekend. He's playing the Browns. We'll do this one quickly. But what's more likely to you? That he'll come out and look decent. Did I say the wrong
he's
team?
playing for the Browns.
I mean, Shedeur supporters would argue that he's also going up against the entire Browns organization, so you're not wrong in their eyes.
Well done.
More likely that he looks the way he did last week, which was like totally unprepared, or that he's going to have a pretty
He'll
good
look
game.
better.
Yeah. I mean, that was.
Sorry.
I think even
these are quick hitters for a reason.
You don't need to apologize. Like I think he'll definitely look better. I think he's going up against a worse defense. He will have some actual time to prepare. And there were plenty of bad plays in that game that fall on him, but there was also like broken down protections that could lead him to be a little bit more panicky. And there were a couple of times where he attacked downfield in a way that they hadn't done since Joe Flacco was quarterback. So if you can keep him protected, then he'll complete some passes. They'll look better. That defense is great, so they won't be in a shootout. They'll get some short fields, and they'll be much more in the game. And I think they'll ask less of him. Quinshon Judkins is like, he broke so many tackles. I felt like maybe it wasn't that many, but the ones that I stand in my mind against the Ravens, like he's just so good. So I think he'll be in a better situation than I think we anticipate.
Yeah, no, I saw people have talked about his tape being better than his effectiveness over the last month, Judkins.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the blocking with him. And that it's not totally representative of who he is. Okay, last one. This is getting so messy so quickly. I got to ask about J.J. McCarthy playing against the Green Bay Packers this weekend.
What part is messy?
You have his throwing coach arguing with Chris Carter. You have KOC
not just arguing with Chris Carter. His personal quarterback coach called Chris Carter a clown and then put out a statement apologizing for calling the franchise legend a clown on Vikings. He put a Vikings logo on it, and then he had to apologize for putting the Vikings logo. I think on the apology, it's incredible stuff, bro. Log off. Just log off. It's not right.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm learning about all this like right now. Yeah. This morning he told me. Charlie told me they were in a fight. I didn't realize that there was a letterhead stealing situation.
I gotta say though, I kind of think like if we've learned anything, this particular thing shows that JJ McCarthy is a little bit ahead of the game. He has a fall guy. You always need a fall guy. His QB coach is his fall guy. But
sorry, he had to remove the logo. I don't think he apologized for it, but he had to redo it and remove the logo.
But obviously, they're playing against Jeff Hafley's Packers defense and Parsons, and it's been like a Super Bowl caliber defense for most of this year. And me and Dominique talk about this a lot, where he sees loud plays from McCarthy. Where I have been a little bit lower on his play from the beginning. But where are you at with the dialogue in this? Is this something where it could get loud enough? And by the way, the second part of this is Kevin O'Connell went on radio and was like, he's changed his mechanics and we need to see the cement dry, basically, which is weird because this is someone who's a top recruit, played under Harbaugh's, had a lot of coaching, sat for his rookie year. And it seems like there's something off with his throwing sequencing or his mechanics or something has changed to the point that he's really struggling to be an adequate NFL quarterback. But is this something where you could see the leash getting shorter or not going forward?
Could they bench him? Yeah. Yeah, they absolutely could. I think, because like what you saw last week was just kind of non-playable to me. Mm-hmm. As far as like the loud play, like he has it's not an arm weakness issue. It's a touch and accuracy issue, and everyone knows this, right? So when it's not required or when he's completely clean and comfortable, sometimes he can make the necessary throws. It's not like he's got a pop gun arm, but there's just a total lack of consistency and certain kind of throws in particular. Nate Tice did a fantastic piece on this before the draft that I just revisited. People should check out. It's like we're literally reading the future because he describes everything that we're seeing, especially like throwing to the left and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like I think I said this on NFL Live like on that Monday, but like watching Justin Jefferson freak out was pretty jarring to me because that's not his guy. He's just not that guy generally. And I think at a certain point they're going to have to start thinking about the rest of the locker room and whether or not. I mean, but they know what they have in Brosmer, who's like the only alternative right now, and I don't have opinions on him personally, other than that he looks like Timothy Chalamet. So that there's more that factors into this than just JJ McCarthy isn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they'll obviously hold out as long as they can, and the people who want to support McCarthy will throw up that it's just 5 games, but these things can get better, and I think the thing about changing his mechanics and all that stuff, that might take a little bit of more time, but it seems rare, with the exception, especially in a situation like this. Like when we think back about guys who seemed unplayable as their first year at starter and then turned around and were great. We're looking at situations where it was a terrible coach there. And you know what we have proof of is the coaching he's receiving there is not bad. Like that's among the best, at least the top third in the league as far as the quarterback coach and the head coach, offensive coordinator guy. Like that stuff is.
He just needs more help at wide receiver.
All right, we'll end it on that nonsense.
No, you want to make your picks?
Oh yeah. Well, I have nothing else to add to J.D. McCarthy.
That's setting up that joke. That was it. All right, so. Last week we picked the Patriots. Mina picked the Cowboys. I'm not gonna rip off everyone. You guys can make your picks. I'll let you know if you picked that team before.
Yeah.
All right.
Mina, you were up by 1 game in Survivor Pool, 4-3.
Looking at the schedule right now.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm
up by 1 game. That's tight. Okay. I'll take the Ravens here.
All right, Charlie. What do we want to do? Seahawks, Titans. Is that available?
We've taken the Seahawks.
Okay.
I kind of want to take the Raiders.
What?
Fade Shedeur.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
trust you.
it's that one. It could go either way. The Ravens are favored, by the way, in that game. So
I trust you.
You don't. You shouldn't.
I don't. But it'll be more fun because at least when we lose, we can be like we're just around.
I mean, look. You can. I'll be your fall guy. I'll be your personal quarterback
you put out
coach.
An apology on Twitter with Domonique Foxworth Show logo, and then Dominique's going to make you take the logo off.
That's exactly right.
I can't wait. Thanks a lot, Mina. This has been fun. Thank you, Charlie. Thanks to all great producers. I love you, Podville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.